Thank you, Heather, for joining me today.
Oh, good to be here. Yeah.
So, Heather, I love the word that you use. You use coach. We don't use the word therapist or psychologist. Um, and in our first episode, we talked about Meet Heather Penny, and we explained the difference between coaching and counseling. If someone missed that episode, can you just briefly explain the difference?
Sure. Yeah, both are really valuable processes, but I think the quickest way to explain it, and clearly there's going to be crossover in each, but if you were to work with counseling, it's really this process of looking backwards and trying to resolve what's been going on in your life. Coaching is this process of looking forward and trying to move forward in life. And I always tell people, if you're ready for coaching, it's usually that sense that you kind of got this restlessness and you're ready to move forward. However, if you haven't resolved some really important stuff in your life, coaching could feel cruel, for someone to keep saying, keep moving forward when you're like, I got to really talk about this hard thing that happened to me, or I don't have clarity on why I'm feeling this way. A lot of that is then that counseling process, but coaching is this really powerful process of saying, yeah, I'm ready to start moving forward and asking what's right with me instead of keep asking what's wrong with me.
Oh, that's so good. It seems like within the past decade, the attitude towards getting professional help has changed. Do you think everyone should seek the guidance of a coach? It's so hard because obviously we're sitting within ourselves and we can't see truth sometimes. And so is that where the power of a coach would come in?
Yeah, I personally, I do, just because I'm in this profession I value so much, and I stumbled into it because I hired a coach. I hired a coach almost 10 years ago to help me figure out my life, and realized I love the process so much that I started moving into coaching and then created my own coaching company. So yeah, I value it so much that I've kind of bet my life on it. And I think it's a really well-trained coach helps the client access what's inside them. They help the individual really believe in their own sense of empowerment, their own sense of clarity. It grows their confidence and it helps them engage at courage in a whole new way. So the way I coach is really this idea that I don't have the answers. You have the answers. My job is to help you stay in quiet and not long enough to engage what's going on inside of you and to really listen to you. So, and that's why I don't work with anyone under 3 months, a weekly session in under 3 months. I feel like, yeah, we want to listen to what's going on inside of you. But Christine, if I listen to you long enough, I'll hear your truth and I'll tell it back to you and you'll be, what? I said that? I can't tell you how many times I experienced that. Today it happened to me. I was working with a client and she started telling me really her desire to love people and to help them move forward in life. And I go, did you just hear your mission statement? That's your mission statement for life. But she says it in passing. My job is to listen really hard. And I go, I just heard your mission statement. She still talked for about another 10 minutes because she was on a roll. I didn't want to interrupt her. But then I came back to it because I wrote it down in my notes. I said, I'm not sure if you heard what a really profound statement you said. And she goes, I said that? I go, yeah. Isn't that good? And she goes, that's really good. I said, I think you found your mission statement. She goes, I've been looking for my mission statement.
Wow.
So it's not my job to tell you, hey, Christina, here's your mission statement. It's my job to keep asking you questions. And I am like the professional listener. And I listen, and I compile it and put it all in one package. It's sort of what you've done for me. When I've asked you and I say, hey, Christina, I need some help with marketing. I need some ideas. You've asked me questions and I've sat there listening to it. And then you give me this wonderful little soundbite and comes back to me. And I go, yes, that's totally me. How did you capture that? And you're like, I just listened, right? So it's a little some of what you do. And it's learning how to really listen to people and believe that they're holding the answers within them. My job is to help them organize it, get their clarity, and keep probing in areas to say, I think this is what I heard. Most of the time I'll repeat it back to them and I'll say, does this resonate with you? Because this is what I heard you say, or this is what I heard you say between the lines. Another client I was working with recently, she was talking about where she wanted to grow personally in her life. And when I asked her at the end of the conversation what was significant about this coaching call, and it's a question I usually end the conversation with, she said, what you heard between the lines of what I said. I thought that was so profound. And I thought, oh, that's really cool. I was picking up on themes of who she was trying to become in life but she didn't have the words to articulate it. But I've worked enough with humanity to hear the themes. Oh, you're pushing through a leadership lid. Oh, you're trying to reinvent yourself. Oh, these are things I hear. And now my job is to say, okay, let's figure out what's blocking you. If you want that, you'll get it. I have no doubt with that. My job is to say, okay, now what's blocking you from getting it?
Mm-hmm. Why can't we hear ourselves? Like, they say it themselves, and I'm sure they've repeated it. This is my mission. This is what I want to do. Why do we have such a hard time acknowledging that when we're saying it ourselves?
Yeah, I don't know, to be honest. But I've just accepted that's how the world works, And so I too hire my own coach. When I'm trying to reinvent myself or move forward, I will bring people into my life and say, I got a little bit of clarity here, here, and here, but can you help me pull it out?
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I have shied away from, and I think I learned this in my younger years, when we don't have our clarity, we are in a vulnerable place. If we ask the person who loves giving advice and kind of controlling the process, all we're going to do is create this codependent relationship where we're thrilled to kind of hand over the reins of our life to someone else, and they're going to be thrilled to take it. That never ends well.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned to do that when I am feeling uncertain about something, I invite people in that says, will you just stay in it with me and keep asking me the questions, because I know they'll come. I just need some help hearing them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so, can you share what the first session sounds like? How do you assess where the person is at, and how do you create a strategy for their success?
Oh, I'd love to. Thanks for asking me.
Perfect.
Because I do so many first sessions. But the first call is usually about, I only keep it about 30 minutes because it's a consultation call, sometimes 45 minutes, but it's listening to them talk about 3 questions. And the first 3 questions I ask them, and I keep them open-ended. I would say something like, all right, Christina, we're going to jump on the line today. I have 3 questions for you. You can answer this as deep as you want to, as shallow as you want to. And you're going to hear clicking in the background. It's just me taking notes on my computer. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of how I started out the call. And I said, then after that, I'm going to share a little bit about who I am as a coach and how I work. And then I go through several points of what it is that you would be working with when you hire me. The 3 questions I ask would be, Christina, can you tell me some objectives you have for yourself? And this is a powerful question, because when's the last time we've ever been asked about our objectives? We're just trying to keep up with
I don't know what I would say. I'd have to really think about it.
Right. That's all I want you to do. Most people go, I don't know. Don't worry. They know. I just got to stay quiet enough to listen. So I would just listen, and I go, it's okay. And pretty soon they'd say, well, maybe I want a better marriage. Maybe I want, I think I want to change jobs. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they'll be really clear. I want to change jobs. As we start working together, it has nothing to do with their career. It has to do something more like, I need to have a stronger voice in the workplace. It has nothing to do with changing jobs. I had one client who came to me and she was so convinced, I got to change jobs. Well, for the first month, she kept trying to interview and go to different jobs, but she hated it. Finally, we realized all she needed to do was speak up to her boss, but she didn't want to have those difficult conversations. Once we figured out that block, I said, okay, here's how we have those conversations. Sure enough, she went and had those conversations. The boss ended up being great about it, accommodating her, and she loves her job. I was like, thank God you haven't changed jobs, right? Yes. So the client will even come saying, I think this is what I want. And I say, okay, that's why we're going to stay in it for about 3 months. Because you may think that's what it is, and it may be it, but it may not be it. I want to give you the respect of really slowing down long enough. You might not even have much objectives. And I would say, okay, that's okay, Christina. We'll figure out the objectives as we go along. But honestly, the more you start talking, I will hear the objectives. So you'll start sharing a little bit about your life. You'll be like, I don't know, my marriage is here, my kids here, my career is here. You'll start talking about all these aspects. Mm-hmm. I'll hear where you're missing fulfillment. So then I will make some recommendations for objectives, or I'll say, hey, I heard this, this, and this. Does that sound like what's going on? You'll be like, yeah. Oh, that sounds like an objective then, right? Yeah. It's usually how it goes. The second question I ask then is, what are your expectations for the coaching relationship? I want to know what it is you're expecting. We all have expectations. We're just rarely asked about them. Right? So that's what can go sideways really quick if we don't have that out on the table. Because the other thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be sharing with you my expectations. I will expect you to move forward. I will expect you to show up every week for the call. I will expect you to follow through on your end and come up with an agenda. My expectations are simple and clear, but that way you know what it is you're stepping into for a professional relationship. But I care and I want to know your expectations. There's a reason why you're coming to me.
Mm-hmm.
The third question I love asking is, what would success look like? I want to know why it is that you're coming to me, and I want to hear your vision for success. And many times people don't know what that is, but I'm challenging them. Remember, coaching is the process of looking forward. If we're going to look forward, we have to have a vision for where we're going. Counseling is a process of looking backwards. Mm-hmm. I'm not interested in helping you look backwards. I'm interested in helping you look forward, because that's what you're coming to me for. So I'm going to help you paint that vision for success. And the longer you work with me, the more that vision becomes more and more clear. And that's where the clarity grows. So I'm always trying to figure out, okay, let's get that vision of success clearer. I don't care if it's like how much money you want to make in a month, to becoming a better parent, to finding a new job. It doesn't matter, but you have a vision of success, and I want to help you paint that vision, because that's what then we start moving forward in.
Mm-hmm. I love that you're combining the professional success with the personal success, because you can't really have one without the other. You can't be frustrated at work, come home a mess, and then try to just, put on the happy face for your family. And the other is true. If you have a tumultuous home life, it's hard to go to work and focus on the task at hand. I love how you bring both of those factors together.
Well, I'm glad you saw that, because what I began to realize, and this is off the coactive coaching model, there's 4 cornerstones. The first one is my clients hold the answers within them. So they're naturally creative and resourceful. So I believe there's nothing to be fixed about you. You've got the answers, we just got to help slow it down. The other thing is that I address the client's whole life. That's a second cornerstone. The third cornerstone is the agenda comes from you, not me. And then the fourth cornerstone is it's a relationship. It's a partnership. So as you look at that kind of 4 cornerstones of really this coactive coaching, it's us creating a partnership. And if it's happening in your personal life, it's going to affect your professional life. If it's happening in your professional life, it's going to affect your personal life. What you choose to bring to the table is really how you're going to move forward, and what it is that you give me transparency for or to. That's where we're going to continue to grow together as a partnership. And it's all up to you. You get to decide the pace of it. And that's what I always try and honor and respect. I have no judgment on how much or how little someone brings to the table. Mm-hmm. There's a reason why they're calling me, so I'm going to let them own that process. My job will be to kind of look through the process and say, okay, how do we continue to keep moving forward? But I want to respect the pace they want to go, how much they want to be transparent about, and what it is that they need to talk about, and what it is that might be blocking them.
Mm-hmm. So when people come to you, is it usually that they're stuck? They're at a point where they just say, my career's a mess, or my life's a mess, and you're picking up the pieces? What do they look like when they first call you up?
Yeah, typically they're stuck in some area of their life. And sometimes they don't even know what it is. They just know that they want something more. Sometimes they're very clear. They want a new job. They want a new relationship. They want to become a better parent. They want to make more money. I mean, I get everything. And a lot of them, by the time they get to me, they've done some of their personal work. They've gotten comfortable with talking about some of the other issues. Sometimes they've met with a therapist. Sometimes they haven't. But there's this comfortability about where they are in life and how they're talking about it. And typically, by the time people get to me, they've had personal referrals, because I work with a tremendous amount of people, and I really only take personal referrals now. Mm-hmm. So they already know what they're getting a lot of times when they work with me. There's this, Heather's known for deep dives, Heather's known for holding accountability, but Heather's known for a lot of grace and a commitment to get you unstuck, and we get results. So they have a little bit of that expectation and that awareness by the time they get to me. And they've heard through the grapevine of what I am to work with, and they usually have an idea of what they want from me by the time they get on the line with me.
Mm-hmm. So many years ago, when I was struggling with chronic pain and infertility, and we talked about depression in a past podcast, my parents graciously paid for me to visit a counselor, which was very kind of them. And it was really bad. Like, it was not the deep dive. It was the $10, we should go to Starbucks and have a conversation with a friend type and not a deep dive. How do we find a good life coach, leadership coach? How do we know who to go to?
Yeah, that's probably why I work a lot on personal referral. I too don't go to someone unless I've gotten a really personal referral that I respect.
Mm-hmm.
Just like any profession, you're going to have really good counselors and coaches and educators, and you're going to have really bad ones. So I always recommend to understand what it is that you want to get out of it so that you can show up to that conversation and say, here's what I'm looking for. I've gotten really clear when I hire people, or even when I'm talking to friends, I will say, I don't need advice. I need you to just listen to me for a few minutes and help me figure out what I need to say in the situation. I just said that yesterday on a phone call with a friend.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing what you want, whether you're talking to a friend, a coach, a counselor, is the most important piece. A lot of times people don't know what they want, and then they kind of put it out there, and then people either try out of a desperation to help. They don't stop and ask, how can I help?
Mm-hmm.
Stay in it. They just are out of usually good intent. They start giving all this advice and trying to help, and it just starts overwhelming us because we're in a vulnerable place. Our society doesn't do real well handling vulnerability as a whole. we get nervous when someone's uncomfortable and vulnerable, so we quickly try and help them. So we overhelp. So I think the first step really is making sure that you understand what you want out of the conversation. You bring that and be able to articulate it. If you don't know what you want, you're listening to your emotions and your feelings. Are you walking away feeling more tired and exhausted and overwhelmed after spending time with that individual? Are you walking away feeling hopeful, energized, peaceful? I always tell people, check in with yourself. Sometimes you don't even know why. I've had conversations with professionals and friends where I've walked away going, oh, that was awful. I don't even know why, but I just don't like how I feel afterwards.
Yes.
They exhausted me. You know, a lot of my feelings, I've got a lot of beautiful people in my life, and it's more of like, I just felt tired. You know, they just kept talking, or they wanted to give me advice, or they wanted to take care of me, or, you know, whatever it is that I don't want. I want to be empowered. I want to feel free. I want to feel like I have a partner there with me. I want to be asked questions. I want someone listening to me. I know what I want and what I don't want. And I think that gets more and more clear whether you're working with a personal relationship or whether you're working with a professional relationship. I always tell people, own what you're feeling inside and own what it is that you want out of that conversation.
Mm-hmm. And so what are some misconceptions that people have about coaching?
That I'm a counselor and I'm going to tell them what to do and I'm going to tell them how to fix themselves. That's the big
session.
yeah. That's the biggest thing is they're coming to the conversation thinking that I've got some probably insight into their life that is going to magically help them. And I want to say, no, you have the power within you. I'm going to listen to you, and I'm good at that. And I'm going to draw on my experience and my education and my expertise to help you grow and move forward. But you are the one that has the answers within you, and you have the ability to actually creatively find those resources. And it's your job to show up with the agenda. It's my job to listen really hard and help create the order out of the chaos so that we can get tools to move forward. And that's what I do really well. But the biggest myth is that I'm going to come and Heather's just going to fix me. And I go, why? You're not broken. I don't believe you're broken. I never believed that. And I think that's a little bit how we perceive counseling more. All right, I'm coming, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to listen to the counselor tell me everything that's wrong with me, or I'm going to tell them everything that's wrong with me. And I believe that a healthy professional relationship, it really empowers the individual, whether you're a counselor, coach, or an educator. You know, as a teacher, I even did that with my little third graders or my fifth graders or my eighth graders. I was all about making sure that, hey, you have the empowerment within you. My job is to stay with you in it long enough to kind of mentor you and guide you along the way to grow you up so that you can launch and be on your own. Mm-hmm. My hope is that when you are done working with me, you feel more clear, more confident, more courageous because you've spent time, not just with me, but with someone who's helping you listen to yourself and start to believe in yourself. I don't want to be perceived as your guru. I want to be perceived as someone that helped you become the hero of your story.
Mm-hmm. That's so good. And you said a minimum of 3 months. So do you meet with them like once a week for 3 months, once a month? Does it taper off? How does your journey, your partnership look like?
Typically, I just say I ask for a commitment of 3 months weekly, and then after that, it's just month to month, and I let them decide. Most clients usually stay for about 9 months to 2 years, to be honest,
Mhm.
because you get that traction that you've been dying to get, and you start seeing the results in your life, and your world starts changing, and you're not ready to leave after 3 months. So that's
Mhm.
typically what I see. Myself, I hired a coach, and I saw a year and a half was really a great length of time for me. Some people, because they're doing great things in their life, they just kind of keep me on their budget line. So they're saying, "I'm doing so much and moving forward that I need you each month." And I think that's the biggest myth, is that you need a coach to help you get fixed. Uh-uh. You need a coach to help you have a bigger, stronger, more thriving life. And if I'm doing my job well, your life becomes bigger and more abundant and more free and more thriving. And if
Mhm.
it's not, I have a different conversation with you. I'm like, what's going on? Why aren't we getting traction here? You get to have the results you want. And I believe that every human being has the power to have a thriving, beautiful life. It's just our job to be honest about where it's working and what's not working and what's blocking us. And that's what I gently come alongside and have those conversations and say, yeah, okay, this is what I see blocking you. Are you open to it? Again, by the time people get to me and they've heard about me, they're ready to go. They're like, yes, thank God she said it out loud. Yes, I'll address it. And I go, perfect. I've got some tools here to help you. That's my job, is to keep bringing the tools along, but I can't do it unless they're really receptive and they kind of see the reflection of themselves in the mirror. My job is to keep holding up the mirror and then saying, you see it? You see it? Perfect. We're all okay. Don't worry. It's all grace, no shame. Everything that I've seen or heard, I've probably felt or experienced myself at some point. So I try and normalize that. And then it's my job to say, hey, I've got some tools for you. Let's see if these
Mhm.
work. And if this one doesn't work, we'll try another one. And if this one doesn't work, we'll create one. I stay in it with the client until we get the individualized approach that they need to get the results that they need.
Mhm. And what are some of the tools that you just referenced? How do you help them to progress?
Well, it can be anything from I kind of separate the heart or head. So a
Okay.
heart issue might be more engaging the right side of the brain and bringing in more of the art, the poetry, engaging their emotions. The head piece might be 6 steps to communication,
Mhm.
leading their team better, making sure that they step into conflict with their spouse well. Here's how to handle that. Maybe being more responsive versus reactive, learning how to build trust. Those are all, and then some of them kind of cross over in both heart and head, but those are some tools that I will either create on the spot for that client and say, here's 5 steps, get real concrete so that I make sure that it's sustainable for them. So by the time they're not working with me anymore, they'll be able to reach for that tool, whether it's a
Mhm.
communication tool, a trust tool, a heart tool, whatever it is, it's really for them. Some of them, of course, are very universal: trust, communication, healing from grief. These are universal tools that I use quite a bit across the board. But occasionally I'll create one for just a client alone. But what's so cool is it usually goes into my toolbox, my coaching toolbox, where I create some. I just created one yesterday where it was with a CEO of a company, and he was really struggling with vulnerability. What was happening though? He was feeling vulnerable in his personal life and his professional life. And I said, "Oh, we're going to work on vulnerability and how it's connected to beliefs." So I created a tool right there on the spot that says, "Here's your vulnerability statement. Here's the false belief that's starting to creep in. Here's the true belief. Let's start
Mm.
the true belief together." So I have to get real concrete with some clients because they need that concrete. And others, they're like, I'm good. I just want to draw it or sing about it or think about, that's for the right side of the brain. I'm like, fine. You need the concrete. We'll write it down and put it on a Post-it. If you need a little bit more of that right side of the brain and the emotions, you get to free flow with it and get to create a playlist off it, or send me pictures in your journal. I've got people who send pictures for me all over the world because they're
Really.
more in that right side of the brain. I just try and meet the client where they're at.
Very cool. And I know that you've touched so many people's lives. I would love to hear a before and after story. What's one of your favorite clients that you've helped? Because I know it must be so fulfilling.
It really is. It really is. Gosh, I've got so many. Got hundreds in my head. Oh man, you put me on the spot. I think one that I really loved was that she felt stuck in teaching, and she loved the idea of supporting kids and developing them. It was really her heart's cry, and so I think she felt guilty that she didn't like it, so she kept trying to stay in it.
Mm.
As we began to talk, she began to realize I love the kids and I love that I'm successful in it, but my introvert is just completely overwhelmed.
Mm.
So she was overwhelmed at looking at a career change because she was afraid that she wouldn't be able to do what her life passion was, which was working with kids. That's a real common thing that I see, is that they're in the right passion of maybe working with kids, but the structure around it is overwhelming to her. She couldn't do it every single day. It was too much
Mhm.
for her introvert side. So once we got to the zeroed in on that, and I will say that I always say, start with some type of like me retreat. That's getting on the tire swing and spending time under the stars, referencing my book, The Bracelet. I remember her saying, "Okay, I went on a me retreat." I said, "Oh, what'd you do?" She goes, I went and joined a group of nuns who were working on an alpaca farm." Like, what? I always love hearing about people's tire swings. I mean, I could write a book on that. So I
You
said, "Okay,
should.
yeah, I totally should. That'll be another podcast."
All right, deal, deal.
Okay, because I've had the most creative ones. And she got back from that. What happens? You get your clarity. And she goes, "I realize I love working with kids. I just don't like the structure of it." And I said, "Yep, I knew we'd get there. Okay, now let's deal with it." Then it got even deeper, where she said, "I don't like teaching them what I have to teach them." I said, "Great. What do you want to teach about?" She loved environmental science. So she went back to school, got her master's in environmental science, started community gardens around her city,
Wow.
quit her teaching job, started a nonprofit with that, and is doing her passion of working with kids, environmental science, getting more education in that area, starting a nonprofit, and getting to do what she loved on her structure and her time. I mean, that was one of the coolest stories I ever heard. I was like, wow, you're amazing. I mean, this really does work. And sometimes I laugh when I get off the phone. I go, man, this coaching really does work.
Hasn't it an alpaca? That's all you need.
Yeah. So I've got all sorts of stories like that it's just been so powerful. Marriages that have completely changed just because they realized the communication between them was broken and they found a way to do it in a way that worked for their marriage. Uh, Relationships, friendships, getting toxic people out of your life, moving forward in your business, in your company, balancing, and I would say more work-life kind of harmony versus balance, because I think that's a myth. I don't think there is a perfect balance. Finding harmony day to day between your work-life balance. These are all things that as we start working on them, everything else starts coming into focus, and it's like that domino effect. And you can start really working at one thing at a time, and it starts impacting your whole life. And that's why I just say we get to start wherever you're at, whether it's a personal conversation you want to have about what's going on in your personal life, or a professional on what's going on at work. We start wherever you're at because it all fits. It's all connected, and you'll be shocked. I worked with one leader, and we were talking so much about his communication style at work. Well, come to find out, it was a communication style in their marriage he was really struggling with. So we spent some time talking about that. As he developed new tools, and I gave him some new communication tools in his marriage, it transferred over into his work, and it made his work not quite so volatile. So he had to address it more in his personal life, because if he didn't address it there and start there, he was showing up with work and it was becoming very reactive. He was very angry. It was very frustrated. He was turning people off. And we began to realize, oh, it's something that's going on at home, that we wanted to make sure that we gave him the tools to set up for success. And then his whole work life became much smoother. So it's a matter of wherever it is that kind of the drama's going on, or the trauma. I'm trying to be sensitive to wherever that is in your life. And I said, oh, it sounds like it's here. And they're like, yeah, it is. I said, well, let's start with some tools there. Let's unpack that a little bit. Because once you start moving forward in that area, everything else starts moving forward.
Mm-hmm. I love that you're a neutral party too, where if we go to a friend or a family member, I don't want to say they have an agenda, but they may see us as one way, or they may want us to do something because, like the teacher, maybe mom and dad spent all that money having her go to college and saying, no, you're going to be a teacher, but you don't have that agenda. You have that fresh perspective, which is so helpful. And you can say things that other people can't, like with the communication. So that's
Yeah,
awesome.
working with organizations or with people, I'll bring in that third party sometimes on the line. If it's an employee, I'll bring in their supervisor and we have a great transparent conversation. If it's a friend or a spouse, I'll bring in that third party. We have a really open, transparent conversation because they're trying to move forward in an area, and sometimes I'm a party to them moving forward and helping them get unstuck. So I think the more we can help build community around each person in a really transparent way, that's a powerful way to help us get unstuck. And I love doing that also as a coach.
Mhm. That's awesome. Thank you so much, Heather. That's all the time we have for today. You're an amazing, I know, you're an amazing coach, and I'm so grateful for the time that you spend with me and with our viewers. Please subscribe to the Heather Penny podcast, and for questions, comments, and resources, please visit heatherpenny.com. Remember, to live your best life, you have to live intentionally. Have a great day, and we can't wait for you to join us next week. Thanks, Heather.
You're welcome. Take care.